And in 1968, when you guys weren't born, and maybe even your parents were just little teeny babies, he said obesity is not a sin. At most, it is a result of not having kept up the lifelong battle against an inherited predisposition and against the environment which combines constant exposure to food with the removal of any need to work for it physically. Wow. 1968, that's a long time ago. Why do you think he starts with the sentence, obesity is not a sin? Kind of a strange way to start. What's he getting at? Okay, obese people shouldn't be judged. I would add one word to that. Obese people shouldn't be morally judged. I think that's why he says it's not a sin. All right? We tend to judge and even morally judge the obese. How many of you know people who are really, really thin? They can eat anything and everything and never gain a pound. Okay, do you hate them? I don't think you hate them. You might be envious. But I don't think you hate them, unless they're just nice people. But I bet that you don't morally judge them. Like, what's wrong with them? And yet someone who has a tendency to be overweight, we morally judge them. Two sides of a coin. And Dr. Jean Mayer is saying, wait a minute, this is wrong. It's not right to be judging, and especially morally judging, obese people. I have heard stories that I found quite shocking. Obese people talking about how strangers would cross boundaries, like go up to them in the grocery store, and when they have cookies and ice cream in their grocery cart, have someone pick them up and say, hey, you shouldn't be eating this, you should be on a diet. Totally, judgmental, inappropriate, crossing lines. I had a student once who told me that someone she knew was obese, was standing in line at the buffet place in Las Vegas. And a thin woman who was behind her in line said to her, it's too bad you're so overweight because you have a really pretty face. And this obese woman was extremely witty and sharp in her head. And she said, well, gee, you're quite attractive too, if only you could get rid of those wrinkles. I'd be so shocked if someone said something like that to me and I wouldn't think of the good comeback for like 2 days. Darn, that's what I should have said. Well, Dr. John Mayer is saying, hey, no, wait, time out. It's not a sin. No place to morally judge people who are obese. At most, it is the result of not having kept up a lifelong battle. That's what it feels like to people, a battle, and for many people it feels lifelong. Against an inherited predisposition, so there's some genetics involved here, and against an environment which combines constant exposure to food with the removal of any need to work for it physically. Well, think about, I don't know how many of you ever used to watch shows like Little House on the Prairie. What did it take in those days to get dinner on the table? A lot of work. You had to work the field, plant your crops, harvest your crops, grind that wheat, make your own bread, milk the cows, separate the cream, churn the cream to make butter, hike for a day or longer to find a beehive just to get bread, butter, and honey. It took a lot of work to get the food in front of you. All we got to do today is push speed dial and the food's delivered. Okay, and you might say, well, we have to work at our jobs to get the money to buy the food, but our jobs tend to not be physical jobs. So we don't have a connection between physical exertion and food that's in front of us. It would be very different if every calorie or every 100 calories you ate, you actually had to physically work to get those calories. It would be a very different world. Now, an environment which combines constant exposure to food. 1968, I was alive in 1968. It was a very good year for me. In fact, that was the year my friend Teresa, who died, that was the best summer, 1968. The best summer of my childhood. I was in junior high in 1968. 1968 were glory days. Glory days compared to today. You didn't have fast food places at every corner, believe it or not. But my friends and I didn't even go eat fast food because there was almost no fast food. There was one McDonald's in Santa Monica. It wasn't a popular hangout place. Our big problem in 1968 in this area was, vending machines. How to resist the vending machine. That was kind of the extent of the temptations. And yet he said that in 1968 because we still had a problem. Are you kind of starting this out? So I don't need to